Ça blesse, ça flingue. Hey, hey, hey.
Welcome back to the B&Me podcast. We are back for another episode. Before we get into it, for those that's watching, man, make sure you like, share, subscribe. We trying to be here for a good time and a long time. Fellas, how y'all living?
Doing good. Getting ready for this nor'easter that we got coming. But other than that,
chilling, man. We're doing well, bro. Not as well as Tone. Tone's at All-Star Weekend, so not as good as you. Needing Isaiah Thomas. You know these different people.
Yeah, we'll talk about that after that live button go off because some stuff I don't need to be shared on the live. Anywho, you talking about I'm doing good. Talk to me. How are you feeling? Essex County champs. I want to start off the episode with that. It wasn't on the rundown, but we couldn't have predicted that the day we record would be the day after Columbia won Essex County. How are you feeling as the coach being a part of this? How's it feeling? Your brother being a part of this? What's your emotions and feelings right now, especially going into the season? I don't think anybody would have predicted Essex County champs going into the state tourney.
No, I mean, it's funny. We won the consolation brackets. I always keep that in mind because I'm the main one that's trying to, get to a point where I'm playing against Seton Hall Prep at West Orange for the Essex County Championship. But no one thought we were going to win the Essex County Invitational. No one thought we were going to do that. Like we were the 1 seed going into it because we played well enough to earn it. I think we're in the middle of changing the culture at Columbia, man. Like I was talking about that before we even went live. We're in the middle of changing the culture. I think last night was one of those nights where, as a coach, everything you call worked. There was nothing I said. There was no call I went to that didn't have success, or Coach TJ went to that didn't have success. So, man, it's been a lot of fun working with Coach TJ. Coach TJ is a big part of the reason why it's changed. Matt obviously played really well yesterday. 2 hit 3, 4 threes. It felt like he had 5 or 6 the way he played, and had a crazy chase down block. But our guys played well, man. Javon went out there and hooped. Our guys they're playing together right now. So I think the best thing is that we have that kind of win going into the states, which is what you want. Like you want to be playing well, moving the ball well. And I think we have a chance to make some noise in states, which no one expects. But obviously internally, we have expectations. So hopefully these guys go out there ready to play. We're probably going to get pushed back because of the snow. But man, it's been fun. And I'm excited to be a part of the change at Columbia long term and get us to a place where we're excellent every single year. That's the goal. This is the first success of many is the way I look at it. So I know I'm not alone in that.
Hey, that's the mentality that you should have going into it. Definitely, I think it's huge. It's great to see from my end, outside looking in. I was only at one game this year. Man's got kids and whatnot, but the one game I came to, I like what I saw right there. And of course, Matt family. So seeing Matt ball out is really great. This episode, NBA second half. We're going to talk about some other things, but we'll be looking ahead to the second half. We're going to have a 9-pack of questions regarding the second half of the NBA season. We're going to start off with this one, and Greg probably will answer this one first, obviously, once you hear the question, with how Wemby handled the All-Star game. Anthony Edwards talked about it, said that he set the tempo. He let it be known that we was going to play hard. With that, because I know there's been some questions of him being the face of the league, with how he presented himself, how he played that first All-Star weekend, are there some different mindsets, different opinions on Wemby being that next face of the league?
I think people are going to want to coordinate him, and understandably so. He's a great player already. I think you can kind of say he's great. Whenever he's on the floor, he's dominant. So I understand that desire, and I know that Wemby plays into it. Like Wemby hears all the narratives on social media, and he, went out there and made it a point to tell everybody that, hey, we're going to play hard, right? Like knowing that's what the fans wanted. Part of being a face of the NBA is understanding what the fans want and trying to give it to them. But I prefer it to happen organically. I thought when we came up, I felt like it was really organic for Bron to be the face of the NBA because it was just there was just the weight of the world on his shoulders, and he had to answer the bell. It wasn't so much that he was listening to fan outcry and doing things to kind of to kind of play into the role, it was different. It was different. He was just in the role. That's what it was. It was bestowed upon him. It's a lot different than Wembanyama, I feel like, who's actively trying to cosplay. You see, I'm gonna sound like a hater, but that's what it feels like sometimes. Because I saw something on Twitter before we got on saying that he's in the dunk contest. And I'm like, now why would Wembanyama want to do the dunk contest? Because people are complaining about LeBron not doing it. People are complaining about the greats not doing the dunk contest, and they're complaining about how it used to be when the great players in the NBA used to do it, and it was like a rite of passage. So now he's trying to take the NBA back to that. I respect everything he's trying to do, but when I look around the NBA, I look around at other guys that are great. Cooper Flagg has as much of a chance to be the face of the NBA as he does, in my opinion. As great as he's been his rookie year, I think he deserves to be in that conversation. Truly, I don't know if everyone's going to agree with that, but I think he has a legitimate shot to be the guy who people look at like, yo, he's leading the charge. And even though he doesn't want that responsibility, and it's because he's immature. But I think when you look at him and you watch him play, like the him and Cade thing where he dropped 40, Cade dropped 40. That's what this is about. It's the natural competition every single night and bringing out the best in guys around you. And I think that Ant naturally does that. So he has those qualities, whether he likes it or not. But look, Wembanyama is probably going to be the face of the league because I think most people are going to be like, hey, that's the best player in the NBA in a couple of years. But I'm not so sure that Cooper will come in and change the narrative. I'm not so sure that DeBance is not going to come in. I think DeBance has a legitimate case to come in and be one of them ones, like be one of those guys we look at as best player in the world at some point in his career. So there's going to be some competition for it, but I do think Wembanyama is stepping into the role, and so I think it'd be foolish to say that he doesn't have a chance to be. It's certainly possible. Do I love it? That's a different conversation.
Next one we got on the list. Which team in the second half is it finals or bust? Miles, you start off with which team, whether it's Eastern Conference, Western Conference, you could touch both. Do you think it's finals or bust?
I mean, I think the Knicks, it's sort of finals or bust at this point. They've made it a step further each year since they've made this, great rebuild from being just bad to actually competing in the East. So yeah, you made all these trades and you've locked down a core of guys who've played together now for a little bit. You're kind of expecting like, yeah, we should be the favorite in the East, even though, yeah, they've lost to the Pistons pretty handily in the 3 games, but I still would take us over them in a playoff series just because, like I said, we're more battle tested. We've got one of the best closers in the game in Brunson. But it's just going to come down to whether they can put it together for a full 16-game playoff slate where you're going to have to win that many games if you want a ring. So that's the team that I think is going to have to be champs or busts. And then in the West, the West is a little tougher to decipher. Like, I don't want to say OKC because OKC's got a solid squad. Honestly, I'm looking at Minnesota sort of like as one of those teams that are kind of championship or bust just because you have Ant. You kind of have locked down this core of guys on this team now. Rudy, Randall. You got some other guys on that team too. And like Ant's ascending. Like Greg was just talking about, he could be the face at some point. And I think he's the most face of the NBA player that we have in the game right now. Like he's got the charisma. Like this is a guy I could see in a movie at some point down the line, just because he's got that kind of like aura about him. Like he's not trying to fake it. He's just being who he is. So for them, they've made it to the conference championship the last 2 years. At some point, you got to get over the hump. And I mean, OKC's battling through some stuff. San Antonio's good, but this team has kind of been there before. So can he get them over the hump and to the finals and possibly winning it? Because if they are able to beat OKC last year or Denver, who's not to say that they could have won a chip by now? And it goes a long way. If you want to keep Ant-Man happy and in Minnesota, you're going to have to make a finals run at some point.
On the next one, we got, who do y'all feel is a dark horse in the East and a dark horse in the West to make a run?
This requires thought. Because the East is a joke. Can we be, like it is. Outside of the Knicks, Celtics, I don't believe in the Cavs, and I know people are going to name the Cavs. So look, people would say the Cavs is probably like the answer, but I don't trust in James. I don't trust James Harden. So the Bucks are going to try to make a run at this thing for whatever godforsaken reason, right? Whenever Giannis gets back, they'll try to make a run at this thing. And you could say they're a dark horse. You could say that maybe with Ryan Rollins and Cam Thomas and Giannis and Bobby Portis and all these guys that potentially they could make a run if Giannis is playing at top tier level, right? And playing where we know he can be at. So sure, they could potentially make a run and make some noise and shake things up. But the East is just so like top heavy that it's hard to call anybody a dark horse in particular. I'm not calling the Knicks a dark horse because people have expectations of the Knicks, right? You know what I mean? Like it feels like the Knicks are underachieving based on the expectations we have of them coming into the season. So I'm not going to say that about them. It's disrespectful. But I would say, outside the Celtics and Knicks, and the Bucks, that'll have a chance. The Cavs, those teams will be in the mix as well. And of course, Detroit is my favorite. I'm so happy I'm thinking as I'm talking right now. I'm talking out loud, but Detroit is my favorite. I love Detroit. I love what Detroit is about. It's crazy to call the number one seed a dark horse, but I think people would have expectations that if they played the Celtics in the series, they'd probably lose to the Celtics. People would probably think that. Or if they played the Knicks, maybe people will have the Knicks as a favorite because Knicks won the last time they played. But for me, Detroit has arrived. They play with the toughness defensively you need now in today's NBA. They make threes with Duncan Robinson. The addition of Duncan Robinson has been huge. Tobias Harris can make, spot shots. He can have a big game every now and then. He's not the player he once was, but he's okay. Yeah, they need a secondary offensive creator. I think that's a real concern. I hear people when they say that. Those nights where Cade goes out there and takes 34 shots are tough. It's tough to carry that much of a load offensively, but I think Cade is built for it. I also I respect Cade's game that much. I think Cade is the best guard, right? The best guard in the Eastern Conference. That's my personal opinion. And if this podcast, you've been listening to this podcast from its inception, you've heard me say this. You heard me say we were always going to get here. And I think that moment in MSG last week was a kind of a culmination, an arrival, a loud arrival on national television of I'm here and I'm here to stay and I'm going to be the best player in the NBA at one of these days here. And y'all going to realize that. And he was talking before the game about guys foul baiting. He's better than certain dudes. You don't get the certain respect. I love that. That's exactly what being the face of the NBA requires. It requires talking the talk, walking the walk, stepping into the moment. He does that. There's nothing he can't do in the basketball court. He's a above average defender at the very least. He completes at a high level defensively. I really like Detroit. Again, for the reasons I like OKC, right? They just play with the scrappiness and the tenacity on defense that translates to easy baskets offensively. So I think that can carry them through the playoffs, at least to get to the finals. I think they can get to the finals for sure, though. And they're my favorite. And I think they're the dark horse because people don't really believe it's real. I think people are still kind of skeptical about Detroit. I'm not. I think it's a real thing. Oh, in Western Conference too? We talk about that? Tony, Miles, you got it, bro. I said a whole lot.
No, for the Western Conference, I would say Golden State. Just because I'm curious now with Porzingis out there and whenever Steph is healthy again, they've got the pedigree. And now they have a stretch center now that opens things up. You just have to pray to God that they can keep Porzingis healthy through April and May, which is, it's easier said than done. But if he can stay healthy for a playoff run with this team, that opens up so many things for this Golden State team. And they've been battle tested. I trust them more than I trust Houston or some of these other teams like Phoenix. But it all depends on health with that team.
Any belief that possibly maybe the Clippers could be a dark horse and make a run? Well, how Kawhi's been playing before the break, and we saw what he did All-Star Weekend.
It's possible. Like Kawhi's been playing that good, like almost at an MVP level, honestly. But them trading Harden away and you lose a big piece of your offense like that, that just made the uphill battle that much higher. Like the West is stacked. You look at the top of the top, you got San Antonio, OKC, Denver, LA's up there. Like it's not going to be an easy road. And you're going to have Kawhi go full Raptors on the Western Conference. And I don't know. This is the healthiest I've seen him look in the last few years, which is great to see. Like he's an incredible player, but I mean, they've kind of made their bed. They've signaled that we're not really trying to compete for a championship. They're just trying to like compete to be a good team. So yeah, they have a shot to possibly sneak out of the first round if they get a good matchup, but I don't see them making like a miraculous run like Dallas a few years ago or when Dame took Portland to the Western Conference Finals. I don't see that.
All right, we got next one. Player with the most on the line, most at stake in this second half of the season. Which player y'all feel has the most at stake second half of the season?
Most at stake. Honestly, I'm going to say Joel Embiid just because that's outside the box, I guess. But this guy has battled through injuries. He's come back. He's looked great for the most part, and now he's out of the lineup again. But he doesn't have many more shots at trying to make a run. And you don't have to deal with Halliburton this year. Tatum's still going to be coming back from injury. So with that Philly team, if they're fully healthy, that team is dangerous. Like I would look at them as a dark horse in the Eastern Conference just because of how I'd say wide open it is. Like any team can really make it. There's like 5 or 6 teams that could make a finals run. But like if you want to solidify your legacy, you've got to do it at some point. You tried to hop on the coattails for the Olympics when you shouldn't have been on the team in the first place. And that's your only achievement in your career. Like you won MVP, cool. You talk about you trade that for a chip. Well, you need to show up in the playoffs so you don't have to have these conversations on would I trade my MVP for a ring. Like go out and get it. Like Embiid's one of the best centers we've seen in the last 25 years in the league. And I don't know how many years of relative health he'll have going forward. Like this is the healthiest he's looked, but his track record shows me that it's not going to last that long. So if he can get healthy, they can make a run, and we'll see. He's got the most to lose with an early playoff exit.
The question was, who's got the most to lose of all players in the second half of the season?
Yes, sir.
You see, this question's loaded because it kind of goes into the idea of like who the face of the NBA is, where we stand. Because these conversations used to be easy. The answer was always LeBron or something crazy. Now it feels like it's not as riveting in that sense. But I would say of all the young players that need to get over the hump, I'm not sure. I don't want to repeat what Miles said, but I would think it's Anthony Edwards a little bit here, right? Too. I think we're kind of getting to a stage in his career where people have expectations. You know, he's already, gotten LeBron up out of here in the postseason and taken down some monsters in the postseason. I think people want to see that next step. You've got a conference finals berth under your belt already. I think people want to see the maturity in your game, take your team to the next level and carry them toward the promised land because people have that level of expectation about you. People are talking about you being the best American-born player in the NBA. Right? People talking about you as a top 5 player in the NBA. I think it's time that he kind of takes the challenge and can show you that he's mature enough to carry his team both in obviously scoring, but also in making the right play consistently enough, making enough defensive plays in the postseason to carry that basketball team because he has all talent in the world to the NBA Finals. And it's not the crazy thing to ask of him with this roster he has right now. It's not crazy. I think it's a very doable thing for a guy you have that level of expectation from, a guy you say can be face to face of the NBA because he's that level of talent. Why not? So I think he does have a lot to lose. I think the more that you lose in the postseason at this early age in your prime, the more the narrative starts to shift about you. You watch it happen with James Harden in real time. It happens to stars. It's happened to stars all throughout our life. I think it's one of those silent things that people won't talk about immediately. But in the summer, if they get bounced out of the postseason, yeah, people are going to talk about that. It's going to be a real conversation. So I'd say it's him for all those reasons.
Same question. Coach, what coach is on the hot seat, has most to lose this second half of the season?
Something comes to mind immediately for me, but I don't know. I think it's Mike Brown. I think there's been too much nonsense around the Knicks with him not getting along with Cat. And I think the transition's been, it's been okay. It's been all right. I think they've played well. But I think it's one of those things where they have real expectations. You came into a tough situation. And I think if the Knicks fizzle down the stretch and they struggle and have a hard time making this thing work, and they have a rough first round series, because you know how that goes. Like these owners and these owners and GMs look at these series and how they go, right? And it really does sway their opinions and helps them make these decisions. So I would say that's going to be a big part of the conversation when it comes to the Knicks. Like, how do they do in the postseason? How does everything mesh? Does Cat start to play well? Does he get along with Cat? Do we think that Mike's the guy to lead the team moving forward? Are the guys enjoying playing for him? It'll be interesting to see. It's not fair. I'm not saying he should be fired. I'm not saying hot seat, but I do think it's going to, like, it's New York, and they have expectations. You might have a 2-year stint in New York if you don't do well this year. You know what I mean? Like, with the opportunity in front of you, Boston is not at the height of their power. They're not there. So you need to take advantage of this window right here. And Detroit should not beat you, even though I do think they're a better team right now. They should not beat you because you've been through more pain in the postseason. Pain in the postseason is what leads to winning. So there's expectations in this job. This was not an easy job when you took it. You need to get to the conference finals at the very least. And they've been there. You need to get to the championship. That's the goal for the team. So I think there's a lot on this plate.
I'd agree. I mean, you look at the season so far, I'd say, like, up until this point, I'd give him a B as far as coaching wise. I do like that he's been more open to experimenting with different lineups. Like, even you looked at the game yesterday against the Rockets, and he played Alvarado, Shamet, along with some of the starters down the stretch. Like, Tibbs, we saw for 4 or 5 years, he's rocking with the guys that he's locked in with. He's playing hard out there, even if he's not hitting shots. He's playing all these other guys, and it's not really helping us. But at least we're kind of experimenting a little bit and seeing, okay, like, I have that lineup in my back pocket to see if it works. Like, you traded for all these assets. But, yeah, he's got pressure on him because this was kind of a championship-built team already. And Tibbs laid the groundwork for this team. And you were brought in here to take us over the top, which, I mean, that would mean a finals appearance because we made the conference finals last year. So, yeah, seeing what happened to Sacramento didn't really give people that much hope for what you'd have coming here. But I think people were more open because he's more willing to experiment with different lineups. And that was the big hang up with Tibbs. So, yeah, we're going to see come playoff time. But I appreciate that he's willing to try these lineups out now as opposed to in a do or die game 6 in the playoffs.
Hey, speaking of trying things, we all have talked about it ad nauseum. We know that it's a part of sports, especially the NBA. I don't think it ever goes away, and I think everybody on the screen would agree that it never will go away. Tanking. Adam Silver and the committee are trying some things. These are the things that they said that they have discussed to try to curb tanking. First round draft picks can be protected only for top 4 or top 14 plus selections. Lottery odds freeze at the trade deadline or a later date. no longer allowing a team to pick in the top 4 in consecutive years and or after consecutive bottom 3 finishes. Teams cannot pick in the top 4 after the year after making the conference finals. Lottery odds allocated based on 2-year records. Lottery extended to include all playing teams or flatten odds for all lottery teams. Based off of these suggestions that the NBA is coming up with, NBA tanking, their fixes that they are suggesting, do you think any of these work to help curb tanking?
Hey, David Stern is somewhere looking down on us, smiling right now as you read all those stipulations. I think that's the first step to getting those rules that are a really good first step to getting rid of tanking, especially the rule where if you made the conference finals, you can't pick in the top 4 or whatever it was, or you can't have a lottery pick. That the fact that the Pacers are in position right now to add one of these young freshmen to their team in this class is absurd. It shouldn't be allowed. It should not be allowed. That is a good battle team who lost their best player, and now because of that, they're going to benefit, and the rich get richer in that sense. Ridiculous. It's like Dylan Harper going to the Spurs. Ridiculous. I know it's the same situation. They weren't in the conference finals, but still loaded, right? So I love these rules and stipulations, especially about taking the protections off of some of these picks, right? Making you think twice about some of these trades that the teams make, right? With those things in mind. OKC being in a position where if the Clippers are bad enough, obviously they've leveled out, but if they were really bad and it kept going the way it was going early in the season, they would have added a lottery pick to their treasure trove. It's absurd. It's absurd. So I think all of these stipulations really are a good first step. I really do like it. If you're not going to get rid of the lottery, this is the best thing you can do. I know some people want to get rid of the draft altogether. There's been conversations about that. I know it's people are touchy about that, right? Because the draft is a spectacle and everything. It's another chance for them to make to get eyes and viewership on the NBA. I understand that, but I'm not as opposed to it as everybody else. I think if these players could pick between the worst of the worst, right, and it would be really interesting and make for some really cool theater, like the free agency for these young dudes, too. Of course, it would screw Utah over, but who cares? Stop acting like you care about Utah. Everyone says that. When I bring up this whole thing about the draft being abolished, like, well, what about Utah? You don't care about Utah. Not only do you not care, you're never going to go to Utah in your life. You don't care about Utah. You never watched the Jazz play. Don't talk to me about Utah. You don't care. All right, let's be honest. We don't got no Utah fans listening to this podcast. And if we do, whatever. But you know what I mean? Like, you're one of very few. But I think things had to change. I like the stance he's taking, and I'm a big fan of these rule implementations, and I hope they go in. He should put them in effect now. I know it's hard to do that, but some of them, put them in effect now. Like, take OKC out of the running. Take the Pacers out of the running. Take the Kings have the most unethical tank going of all time. They sent DeAndre Hunter home for eye surgery. He got LASIK. They said, go home. Go home. You're done playing. Go pay for your LASIK. We'll just go do something. It's the most unethical thing I've ever seen in hopes to get Darren Peterson. It's a joke. It's a joke. So these teams that are unethically tanking right now need to pay right now. That's my thing. I don't want this to go on next year. It needs to go happen now, because this is the draft that's consequential. It's the draft where everyone sees all these great young freshmen. Make them pay now. That's what Stern would do. Stern would be like, nah, effective immediately. It's happening now. So not every rule, but I'm putting some of these rules into effect to affect you guys at this very moment.
I mean, some of the things that I liked from what Silver said was freezing the lottery odds after the trade deadline. Just because that's usually when you see people all of a sudden getting these phantom injuries, and they're, you know what, you're out for 2 months for a sprained ankle or something. And now they're losing games on purpose that way. If you freeze them, it's not like you can lose games and get a higher slot. And I do think that all teams should have an equal amount of ping pong balls that are in that lottery spot. I mean, the pick protections too. I feel like they should take those off completely, because if you're willing to make a trade and then all of a sudden it's like, all right, if it falls between 1 and 8, we still get the pick. It's like, then that's how you scam the system. So hopefully these go into effect next year. It'd be more ideal if it went into effect this year, because right now we have the Wizards' first-round pick, top 8 protected. So I'm hoping they land 9th, and then we can kind of get crazy with this draft a little bit. But yeah, I'm looking at Adam Silver was kind of looked at as soft up until this point, and now you see he's trying to lay down the law a little bit. I'm sure he's heard the soft allegations, but this is a good step in the right direction for the league, because this has been a problem for a while now, where teams after a certain point, they're not trying to win games. They're openly trying to tank, and it's been an ugly thing that's happened in the league. It happens in like all sports, but in the NBA, it just seems like it's a little crazier at this point.
We'll see. Hopefully, like you said, it happens next year. I'm gonna give it back to you. And that happens next year, because I think ultimately, though, and I think we all would agree with this, people are hired to be in these front offices. Literally, their job is to figure out how to find the loopholes and cheat. So even with some of these changes, I'm sure they'll figure out something, but maybe this will help curb it. But I think tanking's here to stay.
Yeah, I think teams will always try, but it won't be as disgusting as. I mean, dude, Utah traded for Jaren Jackson Jr. and then made up a phantom injury to get him surgery shortly after they got him, because they realized, oh, we're going to win games, like with Keontae and Jaren Jackson Jr. and Lauri Markkanen, who we refused to trade, by the way, for whatever godforsaken reason. But we want to be bad, but we refuse to trade him. But they made up an injury to get him out of there and get surgery. And so these guys have been unethical. You can look at all these teams that have tanked, and you can see the difference. And I'm not beating my chest when I say this, but the Nets have not unethically tanked. They've played everybody. I'm serious. Like it's crazy. There are certain teams that have gone about this the right way. We're just bad because we're ass. We're not good. I can deal with that. What I can't deal with is you holding guys out simply because you don't want to win, and you're doing it in our face. Like you're not. There's no secrecy to it anymore. So that's the joke in all of it to me. I don't know. I need to curb that at least. It's a start.
No, I agree. Nets and Pacers, both teams, I think, have done it ethically this season. They're just bad. They're just bad teams, and it's like there's a way to do this. The Nets, you can say that they actually planned this in the most ethical way, where everybody was on their backs about he had 5 first-round picks. He used all 5 first-round picks. Yeah, I'm gonna build a team full of young players that do not know how to win. That's the ethical way to tank. It's not that we have players that can impact winning, Jaren Jackson Jr., Lauri Markkanen, and we're sitting them. No, Igor Dimon is still learning how to speak English. It's a completely different type of tank we talk about here.
I got one thing. I do like what Chuck said the other night about if you're below 500, you can't raise the price of your season tickets. Like, how many times, as you know, outside of basketball, as a Jets fan, I was a season ticket holder for the Jets for a few years, and they would go 4-13. Rodgers gets hurt next year. They raise the ticket prices. I'm like, how can you keep raising the prices when the product you're putting on the field is not making people want to renew their season tickets? So that's something that's always been an issue. You put out a bad product, but then the next year you raise ticket prices by a crazy amount. Like, it doesn't make sense. So if you really want to stop the tanking, you got to affect these owners' pockets. Like, that's the biggest thing. If once you start doing that, like they're below 500, they got to drop the price. It's like, oh shoot, that's like $10 million out of my pocket that I'm not making next year. So they need to implement that over some of these other stipulations that he talked about.
I love that, Miles, but you got to remember that we live in America, and in America, we don't hold billionaires accountable, and we don't actually stop. We don't actually do anything to billionaires. So that would require the billionaires being like, okay, and then they're not going to do that, right? Because they still own Adam Silver. I use the word own very purposefully here, by the way. Own. It's hard for him. It's hard for him to punish them. Which, by the way, I did hear they're going to come down on Hawaii and the Clippers pretty soon about the aspirations thing. That's happening. So I'm very curious to see what the punishment is and how severe and how steep it is, because that was literally like the FBI is investigating you. That's insane. So I'm just curious to see how that all shakes out.
I agree. I like that because I just had this conversation with somebody. I was a guest on their podcast, and they asked me about this. My thing that I hate the most about all of this is the fan still has to pay top dollar to get into your arena. The fan is still paying $12 for that hot dog. I think it should be something where, like Miles is saying, it's like maybe not under 500 because, like, again, a team like the Nets and the Pacers, that's a completely different thing. But teams like the Jazz, teams like what the Wizards are doing, even with like Alex Sarr, who is a DPOY candidate, is not playing like fourth quarters. He's playing like 20 minutes a game. That absolutely makes no sense. Cool. Y'all want to be on that type of time? How about this? Every ticket, y'all got to put half off now. How about that? Every ticket is half off to get into the arena. If y'all have consecutive years like this with 10 to 15 games under 500, cool. Tickets are half off. Merch is half off. Everything is half off since y'all not giving 100%. Half off everything for the fans. Because the fans are going through it too, having to sit there. Like Greg said, he understands what the Nets are doing, but that still don't excuse that. Yo, I'm a fan of this team and I got to watch trash on the court. Y'all are taking literal trash cans and just throwing it on the court and be like, watch this for the same price. Nah. It's not hurting. It's not hurting the player. And I'm not saying the player should, because a lot of times the tanking isn't player led. It's not like players like, I want to go out and lose. This is a decision by the organization. Cool. Players still get their money, but the organization, top down, y'all gonna have to pay for this in some way, shape, or form.
Nets tickets are already cheap though, but that's besides the point. Look, in the past, the Knicks were winning 15 games, 17 games, and charging $300-$400 for tickets, which I would find so crazy as a Knicks fan. Like I'm like, how am I supposed to go to a game? Even if I know they're supposed to lose by 30, I can't even get in the door because it's like $400 to sit in the second level. It makes no sense. So yeah, I think, yeah, like you said, Greg, the owners aren't going to vote for that. They're not going to approve that. But as a fan who wants cheaper seats, yeah, if you suck, I want to get into the game for cheaper. I don't want to spend top dollar for a product that is not meeting the price.
But
And the
this
crazy
why
thing
I
is,
say- what is it?
I said the crazy thing is, I get it if it's the Lakers are coming to town, if the Timberwolves are coming down with Anthony Edwards, Spurs are coming to town with Wemby. They still charging these prices when it's Knicks against Wizards. When the Knicks were bad, it was like, what are we? It's two bad teams. What are we doing?
Yeah, I think this is why fans have to grow a spine and stop showing up to these games. I tell Knicks fans all the time, why do you guys go to games? You know, when they were in that dark age for what's been most of my life, I'm like, why are y'all showing up to these games? Stop going. Stop putting money in Dawn's pocket and things will change. Stop giving them, stop being the consumer. Stop showing up. You want to watch it on TV? Cool. Stop going to the game. Stop buying the jerseys. Stop buying the merchandise. That stuff affects things. That affects real change. It's the only thing that really matters to people is money. You know, it's money. Yo, black people ran Target out of business, bro. Like Target was hurting. Like they ran their CEO out of there for that reason, bro. So like, not out of business, they're around, but you know what I mean. They're hurting. And so, you know, like that economic change is the thing you need to see in these situations. I just think, look, the Nets don't have that problem. People don't go down there no way. So it's fine. but for certain teams, like they have to take that into consideration, especially if the owners going to raise prices after, you know, subpar year after subpar year after, you know, it's a joke. It's a joke. But the Knicks are the most outrageous example of that, and their fans. And that's why I'm like, yo, y'all don't make no sense. We stop going to the Garden. Stop wasting your money. Now it's different. Whatever.
Right. I was about to say, now it's different.
But that's the thing too with the Knicks. That was always egregious and always set up too for those that watching right now, listen to this later. The Knicks had a monopoly because you was paying to even watch them on TV because it wasn't on every cable system. So then you would have to just be like, you know what? I'm not going to watch anything with the Knicks. I'm gonna just watch highlights because Dolan set it up where it was like, yo, you can't get MSG with any cable network. You can't stream it anywhere. You're gonna have to pay to get it to watch Knicks game. So the Knicks in general, that's an episode in itself. Dolan is a one of a one type of owner for sure. Next one we got of our 9-pack, the KD burner scandal. Is it a big deal? Or is it something that's going to be blown over?
I mean, he's trying to bury it. He fired his whole boardroom staff. So I don't know if they were the ones in the group chats and they leaked all that stuff, but we may never know. But again, he's just a hired gun at this point. And him saying all this stuff that he feels about these different players on his team, by the way, his first year in Houston, he's talking trash about Jabari Smith, Sengun, very open about Steph and Booker. I'm like, you're just running down the list of teams. Go further back. Say how you feel about Russ and some of these other guys. So I don't know. He's not going to win for the rest of his career. And I don't know if this is going to tear down this team, their chemistry. I think they won the game after the whole All-Star break fiasco came out. But I'm sure those other guys have separate group chats inside that team, and they're definitely talking about it, even if they're not going to address it with KD. I don't know if he's going to address it. He tried to skirt past it, said it's a non-issue, but it is an issue. This is something that's going to hang over the team's head, win or loss. Now,
it's absolutely a big deal. It's absolutely a big deal. I think one of the things underrated about Kevin Durant is kind of like the team dynamic around him when he goes to these teams and he plays, and how everything kind of can change on a dime with him. I read that when he was on the Nets, like the younger players in the Nets would kind of be a little fearful of KD, which is ridiculous. But like when he gets into these moves, right? Like these moves that he's in now, where he kind of realizing like, oh, I don't think this guy's that good or whatever. Or this guy shouldn't be on the floor, and he's getting negative. The young players in the Nets would feel that. I read an article, and then shortly after I read that article, this whole thing, the KD Files drops, right? Which is a crazy name, by the way. Oh my God. But like that, this whole thing, like the things he was saying about his teammates, obviously, allegedly, I guess we don't definitively know it's him, but Get Off My Dickerson is his name, is a pretty good tell. And it's also an elite Twitter handle, by the way. That's elite. Excuse me. But nah, man, I mean, I think the whole situation with KD, I think it obviously affected the locker room. You can see that the on-the-court product is not quite the same. They blew a 17-point lead yesterday. I'm not going to only put that on KD, but KD got a lot of credit when things are rolling in Houston. He's going to get blamed when things aren't going well, especially when this thing's hanging over his head. So I do believe there's a level of truth to it. I think KD wants to get us to believe that suddenly this whole burner account thing is not true, but you've admitted the fact that you have burner accounts before, and it's like your thing. You've admitted it, and like you're always on Twitter responding to people and all that stuff. We know this. We know you care about what people think because you ran yourself out of Golden State. Ultimately. So I have a hard time believing Kevin Durant when he says that he's not behind this or that he wasn't involved with this or that he didn't say these things. And honestly, man, like if my teammate called me the R word in a group chat, it's static. I mean, the day I see you is up. It's up. Like it's not going to be the same. I'll try to be professional, but like it's up. It's never going to be the same. So when Jabari waved him off last night and took that three, when KD wanted the ball back after he missed that pull-up jump shot and it was tied 1-3 with the Knicks, and Jabari waved him off and took that three, don't think for a second that Jabari didn't have that in the back of his head, that he was talking crazy about him in that chat, that he's not rocking with KD right now, that those guys don't like him. And ultimately, it's sad because the ring doesn't hold the weight they should because of how he went and got those rings. What are we going to remember KD for outside of being a great scorer? Stuff like this, as great as he is, stuff like this is going to be stuff we talk about in 20 years. No one's going to forget that this stuff happened. It's a legacy tarnishing thing. It's a big deal. Even if the NBA never punishes him, it's a legacy tarnishing event that happened in his career. And it's completely self-inflicted.
Right. Imagine Bron having a burner and like going at people back in those Cleveland days when there were all those questions about if he could get over the hump. Like it's wild that a guy of his caliber who, if he's not doing all this, if he doesn't do the whole, I'm going to team up with Golden State, kind of in his prime. This is a guy who's like a top 10 player of all time, honestly. Like, this is one of the best players to ever put on a jersey in the NBA. So for the discussion on his career to be tainted rings and burner accounts, it's like a weird, sad downturn from what could have been. Like when we had that you the real MVP, like he was the darling of the league at that point. Now he's like, people don't look at him the same.
Yeah, that's the thing I think is interesting. One of his teammates, what we hear all the time with Russ, great teammate, great teammate, great teammate. I go through a wall for Russ. I love Russ. I love Russ. I am intrigued what these teammates and these players are going to say once he retires, once he's not on your squad, once he's not in the locker room with y'all, what we'll hear on podcasts in 15 years from now. Like, yeah, this is what I really felt about KD. This is how he was in the locker room. I'm intrigued to see what happens in that regard in KD's career, because we haven't heard as much from teammates of, oh, I love playing with KD. He's a great teammate. We've heard about his skill, one of the best scorers ever. Very intriguing to see what people say once he retires, where he's not in the locker room with them anymore. We got 2 more of our 9-pack. Which award race is the most intriguing in the second half?
Probably the MVP, right? I mean, Shea's been out. Nikola, I mean, he missed however long, and they already want to like slot him back into one of the front runners of the MVP race. But I feel like you got to pay a closer attention to guys like Cade and Kawhi and some of these other guys that are playing out of their mind. And like Cade's team has the best record in the NBA. He should be getting more love as far as like MVP talk outside of like Twitter and people who have different accounts. Like he should be up there with Shea as one of the front runners for MVP. I mean, Jaylen Brown's playing great. I don't know if he'll sustain it once Jason Tatum comes back. We'll see, but he should be in the conversation too. He's had a great year. So the MVP race is going to be interesting because I feel like the last couple of years it's been Shea versus Joker or Joker versus someone else. Like now we have some more threats to the MVP race. I feel like even Ant I would put up there. Like he's having probably his best year in his career so far.
MVP for sure for me too. And I will say it is annoying that everyone's trying to slide Jokic back into this whole situation, right? Into the whole conversation for MVP. Not because he doesn't deserve it, but because there's just this insistence about it. I heard, Bomani Jones talking about his statistics and how he's having the greatest season of any player ever, is what he said, based on the numbers. And I'm like, okay, I'm not downplaying the numbers. I know Jokic is a great, all-time great, incredible basketball player, elite in every aspect of the word, right, outside of defense. I know that, but I just think it's over the top sometimes when we talk about Jokic for sure. In terms of, like, again, the re-entry into that conversation. You missed a certain amount of games back in my day, which is crazy to be saying. That would, at the very least, curb the conversation for you regarding MVP. You got Cade playing at an extremely high level right now on a team that's extremely successful. He's meeting all the rules and the barometers that they set, that the people who vote for this thing set. And you're not really having that conversation about him nearly enough, or Ant-Man, right? For that matter. Because Shea can't come back from this injury, from this prolonged absence, and just be the MVP, right? So I do think that it'll be interesting to see how it all works out, how the narrative shaped this whole conversation, where they eventually end up voting, and to see if Jokic misses another game or not, and see if they just give him the award, right? Simply because they'll say he's the best player. Well, you guys haven't always voted that way. So it'll be interesting, and we'll see what happens there for sure. But I think it's easily the most intriguing race there is left.
I think the door is going to be open for somebody else to win, especially being there. I think Jokic could only miss like 6 more games. SGA could probably miss maybe like 8 or 9 more games, and he's not even back yet. So I think because of the 65 game rule, they'll end up disqualifying themselves anyway. I just checked the odds out. The odds still right now in Vegas has SGA, Jokic as the top two people with Cade third. So if they somehow play the rest of their games, I can see people going with the usual over the last couple of years, Jokic or SGA. But the way Cade's been playing, and if they finish as a number one seed, come on, I don't see how he doesn't get more love. So Cade, even Anthony Edwards, even if you want to put Jaylen Brown in the mix, even if you want to put Jalen Brunson in the mix and how the Knicks have been playing, these are all viable names that I think should be getting more love, but that's not the more popular thing. Everybody's going with the crazy stats of both players, rightfully so, SGA and Jokic. Last question for our 9-pack second half NBA season questions. Are we witnessing LeBron's final games as a Los Angeles Laker?
It sure feels like it. It sure feels like it. I think there's a really good chance that it ends here and that he goes somewhere else. And I think it's in the subliminal messaging. It's in the things that he says. It's in the things that he says about teams going for it. You know, when he makes those comments about the Cavs going for it, and he points out other teams that are going for it, or he says after a game that they're not a championship team and they can't sustain championship level play for a long period of time. And then Luka comes out and says the exact opposite. You notice those things, you bank those things, and you understand that I don't think LeBron respects the way the Lakers have done their business over the last couple of years. And I think LeBron understands that the Lakers are going through a shift where it is Luka's team, undoubtedly, and it will be for the next however many years. I think he still wants to win. I think he's fine with that, but he wants to win in the meantime, and he wants them to make aggressive moves to pursue a championship. And I think he sees it as a level of disrespect that the Lakers think, well, we can't do that with you on our roster making what you're making. I don't think LeBron's taking that very well. And I actually don't think that LeBron would be against taking a pay cut. But I think it's the fact that you don't respect him enough to make a move as the team is currently constituted that would actually give you a chance to win a championship. You know what I mean? So I think that's where he's at. I think on some level, I do think LeBron feels disrespected by the Lakers. He'll never say it. You know, you'll never hear it until he's long out of the NBA, maybe in some documentary. But I do think that, or maybe on a podcast, he'll talk about it. But I think that now he looks around the landscape of the NBA and he wants to go play for a team and an organization that wants him to be a part of their organization and thinks they can win a championship with him being on the roster. I don't think LeBron's going to do some like farewell tour where he's just losing games or he's 500 and he's just, you know, doing his waving his goodbyes. That guy wants to win. I think that guy wants to win, and he's going to try to put himself in the best position to do so. I'm not saying the Lakers can't be in that position next year. I think they'll be better, right? But I don't know, right? If Pelinka's making those calls, how can I be sure? Like my tone shaking his head. I understand the skepticism. It's fair. So I have legitimate concern. I actually think this Lakers team could have actually had a real shot with the three players they have with Reeves and Luka and him, and how much pressure they put on the defense. But they just don't have enough like athleticism around them and defenders around them to go compete with OKC and the other teams. So it's obviously not going to happen this year. And I don't know when it's for the Lakers, but I do think LeBron is probably not going to be there.
Do y'all think? I don't know if y'all saw the reports that he's getting offers anywhere from $40 to $75 million. It's probably going to be more than that to be able to have the streaming rights to that farewell tour documentary to record everything that happens in that final season. Do y'all see with stuff like that on the table, you could take a vet minimum somewhere and you'll make it up on that end? Do you see him taking a pay cut to go to a Cleveland, which I hope he doesn't do because him, James Harden, and Mitchell wouldn't work. But do you see Bron possibly next year to end his final season, take a pay cut, go to a team where he could actually end off his career with a title, which would be wild for the historic career he's had to end off? He wins a title and then goes doing whatever else he's going to do.
No, I don't really see him taking a pay cut. I think wherever he goes, they're going to have to pay him like a decent salary to play there. It's just, how do you fit that into this new NBA of the salary cap being what it is and the aprons? You're going to limit yourself to what teams you can go to. But I think he's going to try to figure it out. I'm sure he has like a list of teams already written down for possible options for next summer to sign with. Because yeah, I don't know if the Lakers are an option, and I don't know if the relationship's that good right now that he would consider coming back for his final year. Where it's like it's just been disrespect after disrespect for the last few years now. I don't think he'd be petty enough to go to the Clippers, but I mean, LeBron and Kawhi would be very interesting on that team, but too much of a headache with the aspiration stuff. I don't think he would end his year off with a scandal or end his career off with scandals over the top of that team. But I could see like a Knicks being interested. Maybe even he loves Ant-Man. So do you consider going to Minnesota? Even though he might have to be shuttled from state arena to his house if he's in Minnesota. It's not the safest place, but yeah, he's gonna have options. He's gonna have a lot of options, and I don't know if he's gonna need to like sell his last dance rights to the highest bidder. Like, I don't know if he needs to do that. Doesn't he have his own like media company that he can do all of this stuff with?
So I think Spring Hill would actually take care of the recording everything and whatnot, and then similar to what The Last Dance was, it was Netflix that streamed it. I think he'd do something like that. I don't think, obviously, like you said, I don't think he needs to do it, but hey, if you about to give me 80 mil to just put my stuff on there and I get all kind of like MJ, I get all of the ability to choose what goes in it, what doesn't go in it. Hey, he not gonna see these type of contracts once he retire ever again.
Yeah.
So I think he takes the opportunity, especially being that, like he said, he'll have creative license to choose what's going to be in it, when, what do y'all record, what do y'all not record. That's again generational money for somebody that already has generational money. Especially you could pass half of that to Bronny, since it don't look like the league gonna work.
I was just about to say, wherever he goes, do you think he's bringing Bronny with him, or is Bronny just he's stuck with the Lakers until it's time?
I
Maybe
don't
they
know.
fly Greg out. Maybe they fly Greg out to train him.
What if the Lakers actually value Bronny? Everyone assumes that they're the package deal, and I understand why. It's the most conventional kind of like line of thinking. But what if they actually like value him and they see something there and they want to keep him? Who knows? I think obviously he struggled and it hasn't looked great, but I do see an NBA player in there. So. And there are signs, like there are moments where he looks like it could if he just puts it together, he could be a solid rotational player. But I don't know. I think Brown will consider taking a pay cut this year. I do. I don't know if it'll be vet minimum, like Miles said. I don't know. I'd be pretty surprised if he did that, but I wouldn't be the most surprised either. I'm not ruling anything out. I think if Brown wants to go championship hunt, he certainly can go do that. I think he's earned the right to do so. I hope it, like Tone said, I hope it's not with Cleveland. I've been having that thought too. Like, I don't want to see a pairing or a trio of. I like Donovan Mitchell, but I'm not a fan of James Harden at this stage, and I don't trust him. And I just don't think that that's going to get the job done. I think that he needs to go somewhere else where he has an opportunity to win. I actually would be more of a fan of a Golden State pairing than that, to be honest. Like, if you go to Golden State. But I also know Rich Paul kind of told on himself when he said that LeBron wouldn't go to Golden State. Like, he basically said that. He was just like, for the sake of the narrative, like, you went to go play with Steph Curry, blah, blah, blah. So I hear that, but I think Bron is above narratives, and we're at a stage where his legacy's already made. So do whatever makes you happy at this point. Hopefully it's just still playing.
Cleveland just feels like the easiest thing to.
Yeah. How you go from living in LA to going back to living in Cleveland, though? I know you're from there, but you know what I'm saying? Like, how do you make that lifestyle change and that choice at this stage in your career? That's the only thing I would say about it. Like, that's the reason why I'm skeptical, and I would hope that Golden State seems like a nice little compromise. You still get the great weather. You get to go play with Steph Curry. him and Steph Curry are formidable together immediately, right? So,
Yeah, because Sacramento ain't an option.
oh, come on. Sacramento's like hell in California.
Yeah.
Actually, I've heard it's pretty nice, but it ain't like
Hey.
Seattle.
Only other option if you want to stay close by in Seattle is probably like Phoenix, because that's only a 2-3 hour flight from LA supposedly. Him and D Book wouldn't be a bad option. But we'll see what happens.
Well, according to KD, playing with Devin Booker is like you get all the blame and get no credit playing with Devin Booker. He literally said when we
called him Hitler.
Devin Booker's team. Hitler and Mussolini. He said that. KD, bro,
he gonna have no friends.
He's a wild guy.
Once he retires, he's gonna have no friends from the league that he can like count on.
If he heard this conversation right now, he would tell us all to get off his Dickerson.
Right. He'll tweet about it on his new burner.
Yo, whose stock do you feel is rising and falling in men's college basketball?
Oh, the fun conversations, man. I think the Boozer conversation is more fun now because I've seen more of him, and I think I have more reason to believe now after seeing more evidence that he's going to be a really good NBA player. It's not sexy. It's not like the most fun to watch when you compare it to like Peterson and Dabanska and Acuff and Michael Brown, but he's going to be a really good NBA player, guys. He's fundamentally sound. He has some flexibility to play on the perimeter. He can shoot the ball a bit. He has a nice shooter's touch. I believe he's going to be a good 2-point shooter in the NBA. A winning player, just is willing to do whatever. Like he could probably score 40, right, on any given night, but just doesn't do that. He will get you 19, 20 points and the win with 10 to 12 to 15 rebounds, right? And a few assists on top of that. He has great feel. So I'm more of a fan of him than I remember being. I think he is worthy of a pick within the top 4 at the very least. Kingston Fleming, his stock is rising too. And we talked about him quite a bit on this podcast. Maybe you're not getting as much Kingston Fleming love on other places you go listen to your stuff at, but I've been on a fan of Kingston Fleming since I first saw him early in the year, and so I'm not surprised that people are talking about him now as a top, 5 to 6, 7 pick in this class, and I certainly believe he deserves it. I think he plays at a different speed than everybody else, and his feel for the game I think he has the best feel for the game of any guard prospect we'll talk about in the class, right? Speed, athleticism, feel, and the shot is coming along nicely. He'll get better at that too, as well. And then I don't want to take all the air out of everything. Obviously, we can get to a more detailed conversation. But the Acuff thing is going to be really interesting to watch, guys. Acuff. I think Michael Brown is rising because he's played well, but the Acuff thing is going to be really, really interesting because he's a small guard. In the NBA, you know how they treat small guards who have scored a lot in the past historically. I think Acuff, if Acuff is listed at 6'3", he's 6'1" at most, right? So he's obviously an incredible athlete, an incredible scorer of the basketball. I want to see more of his playmaking. I'll be honest. I want to see more from that aspect. I do think he can do that. But I think the question is always going to be about defense. You talk about guys that are that small now. I still think he's worthy of a top 10 selection. I think any team that gets him is going to get an immediate offensive impact player in the NBA. He's going to score at every level he plays at. That's just who he is. And he's also we have to respect the fact that he's a Calipari guard. We're going to name it Cal. It used to be Kentucky, and then Kentucky got rid of him. It's Calipari. He's a Calipari guard. Right. So I think he has credibility when it comes to developing guards. Obviously, he's a long track record of doing that. So Acuff has immediate credibility as a guy who will work in the NBA, in my opinion. And I think his stock is rising. That's another guy.
Hey, Miles, before we even get into, because I know why everybody is here.
Yes.
That's tuning in. I know why everybody is here to talk about DNP. But before we get into DNP, speaking of Acuff, I saw this conversation, right? Amongst guards that Calipari has coached, and he's coached a lot of them that are really good. D. Rose, John Wall. Where does Acuff rank for you? And I know you're locked in with Calipari since he's been coaching. Where does he rank amongst the Calipari guards?
I mean, he's not in the top 5. Like, as far as guards go, I mean, De'Aaron Fox was a better prospect. Um, even D Book coming off the bench. You almost forget that Shea was he wasn't what he is now, but you could see glimpses of what we're seeing right now. And then even the guy John Wall, D Rose, I'd still put ahead of A Cuff when it comes to guards from that Calipari lineage. So he's good. I'd say he's the best guard in the draft. I'm a little higher on him than Fleming, but like that's where me and Greg differ a little bit. But yeah, he's going to be really good coming into the league. He's averaging. He's shooting 44% from three, 50% from the field as a freshman, and you're averaging like 22, 23 points a game. That's really good. Usually you're a little inefficient. Like I know that's the knock on Mikal Brown is that for most of the season he's kind of been very hit or miss, but he's played very well the last couple weeks. So, but yeah, as far as guards go, I'd say he's in the top 10 of guards that Calipari's coached.
All right, so let's get to it. Let's get to it. Why everybody is here, why we are here. We talked about it all week leading up to this episode. Darren Peterson, is his stock dropping? We actually talked about it on the episode before all this started happening. If we thought teams would be hesitant to draft him as high, it has been elevated the conversation. And now stuff that we were already talking about is on the national media about his stock possibly dropping. What are y'all seeing? What are y'all thoughts on this Darren Peterson situation?
I was thinking about it like a couple days ago, and I feel like all this negative talk, it's helping some of these other teams in the lottery have a chance at drafting him. Like coming into the year, he was the best prospect. Like I still think he's probably, if he's fully healthy, which I've been between it's his agent and health. I've been going back and forth on what it is, but if he's fully healthy, I do think he's the best prospect in the draft. Just the athleticism and the way he moves on the court, it's just different. Like even when you compare him to DeBansta, like DeBansta is very herky-jerky, but he's really, really good. So I'm curious to see what happens as we get closer to the draft, just because I think once we get closer to the draft, it'll just kind of solidify himself as like a top 2 pick. I don't see him falling out of 2. I think whoever's picking second, you're not losing. Like it's either you get AJ or you get Peterson, who I think he'll be a better pro than what people are thinking right now. And like the questioning, the mentality, it's fair just because, yeah, from what we've seen, he's pulled himself out of games. He's missed half the games that they've played. So you're like, does he have the love for the game? Does he have the drive? But yeah, if the injuries are as serious as they seem, comparing his high school tape to now, because the explosiveness isn't as great right now as it was in high school the last couple years. So now I'm thinking like maybe he is really banged up. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of draft talk right now. And I think a lot of people are using this time to, I don't want to say smear his name, but it's helping to bring his stock down. And some of these teams like, look, if the Pacers get the 3rd pick, and they keep smearing his name, and you know, DeBansta goes 1. I don't know, Boozer goes 2. Imagine the Pacers get a steal in Peterson. He's not a 3rd overall pick. This is a number 1 pick. Like we've seen it in moments. Even if he's not fully healthy, this is the best player in the draft. Like I just feel like, yeah, once we get to April, people will see. They'll see in the workouts or once they get to talk to the kid. Like it's just a lot of unknowns right now, and he's not really allowed to talk to the media. I'm sure that's his team saying, "We don't want you answering questions on this." keeping everybody in the dark. It's a weird situation looking outside in, but yeah, I'm a believer in Peterson.
I mean, uh, look, I think this thing is made worse because he hasn't been able to talk to the media. I think that his team has overthought this thing a little bit and not letting him speak. It's let people kind of run with their imagination and kind of make this thing whatever they want it to be. You look at AJ Dubance yesterday after he played 40 minutes, said, well, look, I'll do whatever I got to do. I'll play 40 minutes. I'll play 50 minutes. I'll do whatever I got to do to win a game, which is very smart on his part because it's being petty and it's directly going at the fact that, DNP ain't playing every single game, right? And look, I do believe that Darren Peterson's going through an injury. I don't think it's made up. I do also think that there's an added element to this where I think his team is trying to make sure that he does not hurt his status for the draft, that they're going to get him to June in one piece and to the team he's playing with in training camp in one piece so he can go out there and start his pro career, which has always been the goal. I think Bill Self is getting frustrated. You hear Bill Self talking about this in a different manner than he was early, where early he was just defending the fact that Darren Peterson was hurt, and he wasn't quick to like judge Peterson or say anything crazy or critical in public. But now, I think the most recent quote I heard was something like, "Well, I think he could have had a big game, but unfortunately, we'll never know. He didn't. He wasn't out there." Like so there's disappointment starting to set in on his part, right? Getting this. Once in a, people will say once in a generation. I don't like to use that term. Once in a generation is LeBron, not Darren Peterson. But this extremely talented guy on your team, and you can't get him out there on the floor. So I think for me, the way I look at this thing in totality is, I think Dubance is closing the gap. Whether you want to say it's about narrative, whether you want to say it's about whatever it is, I think Dubance is closing the gap. I think Dubance is going to get some real consideration at number one. Maybe it was always going to be that way, regardless of the situation, but I think it's even worse now. I think it's like even more heightened now. I think teams are really going to give Dubance a look, because I think Dubance has all the physical tools in the world to be one of the best players in the NBA in a very short period of time. So I'm very curious to see how that all unfolds and how the rest of their seasons go. Again, I think Peterson is special. I think Peterson is probably the best player in the class. Notice how I'm saying probably, right? I'm not saying it with any kind of definitive certainty anymore, because I just think there's something to be measured in someone's heart and their will to play the game and their will to play through injury, because everyone's playing injured out there right now, right? That's just a part of playing this game. I'm not trying to fully question this kid's heart, because we don't know how bad his injury is necessarily, but I just feel like you want guys are going to run through a wall for you. I think Dubance is going to run through a wall for you. I don't have to question that he will. I don't have to question that he wants to be out there every single night. And I think it's very fair to have that question about Darren Peterson now. It is. If you want to question that kid's heart or his desire to be on the floor, it's a fair question to ask, because they've left it open to interpretation. He left it open to interpretation. He let Dick Vitale go online talking about, well, they should just get rid of Peterson. This soap opera should just end. You see the conversation they're having right now? Because you guys refuse to address it and communicate yourselves. We got to get it straight from the horse's mouth and not from other people. And when you allow other people to have a conversation, when you let Bill Self be your representative on the matter, well, Bill Self not going to do you no favors, man. Like, Bill Self is trying to win games. He ain't worried about your draft status. He worried about whether or not you go number one. He worried about winning games for Kansas. He thinks he has a chance to win a national championship, and he thinks you're hurting him because you're not playing in games. So he's not out here trying to do you any favors. You know what I'm saying? So the situation with him, it's tough to watch unfold. He's going to be fine. He won't fall any lower than 2, in my opinion, in this class. If he doesn't go 1, he's going 2. That's the way I look at it, period. But I think Dubance is closing the gap. I really do believe that, because every time you look up, he has 30. He has 30. Yeah. Dubance has been incredibly productive. So you got to give credit where credit is due. This is an incredible class. Oh my God. What a great class. And I'm looking forward to seeing how it all unfolds too.
It's crazy though, all the discourse on this Peterson stuff. Like, he's almost become bigger than the program at this point, where like you're not even talking about the games. Like that game that he pulled himself out 3 minutes into the second half, it was a blowout. But because of how great this guy is, and they're talking about him as potentially the number 1 pick, they're not talking about the 30-point win. They're talking, what happened to Darren that he didn't play in the second half? So now it's like th- this is not something Bill Self has ever had to deal with, where it's like a distraction. It's almost March now. March is when we usually get ready for the conference tournaments and the NCAA seeding, and still having this conversation 3-4 months into the season. I know Bill Self's like, yo, get me to April when this guy declares for the draft and I can have my team back. Because right now, it's not really his team. It's the Darren Peterson show. And that's why that picture of the 4 Kansas guys huddled up and Peterson kind of 20 feet away, it speaks volumes on their season. Because it's really been Kansas, the players, trying to win in spite of the distraction that is Darren Peterson. So, yeah, that has hurt his stock, and it should. But like you said, or like we've said, I don't think he falls out of the top 2 picks. Like, I think this kid is that good. Even in the time we've seen him in college, we've seen great things from this kid. So I think teams are willing to bet on their training staff, if that's what you think is an issue, their player development staff. Because if you're going back and just basing off of the tape in high school, if you feel like, oh, we didn't really get to see him to his fullest extent in college, this is a number 1 player. This is a number 1 player in the draft. And I think I heard Melo talking about it. Like, this stuff would be a non-issue if you're able to declare out of high school. I feel like if they were going back to that, you wouldn't have to deal with this NIL stuff.
Facts. And even if they were to go back to that, I think one of the things that definitely needs to be discussed with that is like setting parameters and maybe setting it up where that if they go through workouts and they realize that they're not going to be a lottery pick, look, I know you don't want to go to college, but you're going to have to go to college. You're going to have to go to Australia. You're going to have to do something. Because that's the issue where I do understand why they stopped it, because we were getting way too many kids that were not ready for the NBA, just coming into the NBA because they don't want to go to college. Because at that time, you couldn't make no money in college, and a lot of these kids didn't have the grades to get into college anyway. So let me just go straight to the league, and I'll figure it out then. They didn't really have a G League often early when the high school players were coming out as well. So it's a lot that goes into it. We are going to leave the discussion. It's a long off season for the NFL. So we're going to leave the discussion of the Jets and Giants, what they need to do for their off season, what's top of the list for them, some of the hires that the Giants have. We will definitely get Greg's input on the coaching staff that they are building over there for the New York Giants. Before we end off, we got 2 more things for our viewers. Tyreek Hill, though, we won't say that for the next episode. Do you think this is a time for Tyreek Hill to reunite with the Kansas City Chiefs, or you see another team that he could possibly go to and have an impact?
I don't think he should go back to Kansas City just because of you don't know what you're getting, right? Like, the knee injury that he sustained was pretty bad. They talked about he was dealing with nerve damage after the fact. He still has another surgery to go. So, yeah, you could try to reunite Tyreek with Kansas City, but you're not getting the Tyreek that you had when he was there. Like, I don't want to like kind of say that he won't ever be the same player, but a knee injury like that, he's over 30. You don't all of a sudden just get healthier over 30. You've dealt with some injuries in the past. So I don't think he should go to Kansas City. I've seen people talk about Baltimore as a potential suitor for him just because of that Florida Lamar Jackson combination. But yeah, if I'm him, I'm looking at potential contenders who maybe you sign them to a 2-year deal, and this year it's kind of used as a get them back healthy. So you lock them down for that second year. But I'm not very eager to give him a boatload of money. Like, he's over 30, and his best days potentially could be behind him. So I'd almost want to sign him to a prove-it deal. So He's a free agent. He's got his pick of the litter. But Kansas City, they moved on for a reason. I don't think they should get back into the Tyree Hill boat per se.
Any input on this, Greg, before we close out?
I mean, I want to see if that guy's gonna be the same player before I even, invest energy into wondering where he's gonna go. Right? Obviously, I think that he'd love to go back to the Chiefs. He's, but he needs to make sure he has his head on straight. He's not gonna go over there and be a distraction. Right? Obviously, when things went left in Miami, he was more of a distraction than he was a good player. Over here, throwing shade at Tua, talking about how he missed KC and how things used to be all the time. Well, okay, you wanted your money and you got paid. No one's listening to you complain about the fact that you're not in KC anymore. You wanted the money, you got. That was the cost of business. You had to go somewhere else, and that was it, right? And you had to go play in Miami, which is not a bad consolation prize. You got to go play at the crib, I believe, right? I think he's from the area, if I'm not mistaken. So, like, for me, I when I look at him, I just want to see if he's the same player. He's older. You have every reason to believe he won't be the same. He's also a world-class athlete, one of the best athletes we probably ever seen. So there's a chance he is the same guy, and if he is, he will be an incredible asset to wherever he goes, so long as so long as he keeps his head on straight. Something about these Florida boys acting up, man, out here in the NFL. I'll tell you, what the hell. but I am curious to see, where they end up going. KC is the logical choice. I think they cleared the cap space they need to go out there and be aggressive and get guys. We'll see if they target him as one of the guys and go back for familiarity. But I'll tell you what, KC needs to get better on the offensive side of the ball, and it starts with the quarterback. He needs to make throws because he has not played great or to the standard he set for himself lately, and that's a bigger conversation more than who the weapons are. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, when we get to Kansas City, we'll probably deep dive and go into that, because throughout this offseason, of course, it's NBA season right now. Playoffs is coming around the corner. We will mix in for y'all NFL junkies. We will mix in teams this offseason, going through what they need, some of the offseason moves, because we're going to see some movement. We're going to see some things happen. And of course, the draft around the corner, things of that nature. But that's it for this episode. That's a wrap. Y'all know the vibes here at the B&Me Pod. If you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. Bench Mob, we out. Peace.
Peace.
Hey.